Hey Scott, Bounty Hunter Bootcamp. We're going to do a review on the Rapid Force Duty Holster by Alien Gear. It's their new level 3 holster. This thing is badass. I had a chance to play with it. I personally think that this is the fastest drawing level 3 holster on the market. Right now they're only available for Glocks. We're going to run it through a bunch of different tests and we're going to beat the crap out of it and see what happens. These things work with or without the flashlight, so if you lose your flashlight you can still holster and secure your firearm, so that's pretty cool. The only other holster that I've experienced that with is the Safariland ALS holsters, and they come if you run an RMR on your Glock. They also work with RMR. We've got a couple of these holsters and we're going to run them through the tests and see how they survive and see exactly what we can do. Our range is currently closed, so we're not going to be doing any live fire exercises, unfortunately, but we do have a blue gun that we're going to beat the crap out of. So here we go. I'm here again with my buddy Nate, and we're going to simulate some of the stuff that we're going to do. A fall test, we're going to do a pea gravel test, we're going to do mud. We thought about freezing it in water, but then I didn't want to wait for it to thaw.
Yeah,
I don't have the patience.
Probably going to go ahead and use our 20-year career simulator. We'll see what that looks like later on. First thing I'm kind of concerned about with any kind of holster retention system is I want to understand what's going to happen to the opening mechanisms once I get into a tussle. I roll around on the ground, I take a fall, I create some impact directly on the holster. Is that going to, particularly in that scenario when I'm definitely going to probably need to get to my gun because I'm fighting with somebody and I'm getting knocked around, is that retention system still going to let me access that firearm?
Yeah, and this is an ejection port. When we toured the factory, the guy was saying that this is it attaches onto the ejection port, correct?
Yes.
Just like the ALS series holsters. So yeah.
So we can actually pop that out.
At a glance here, what do we got?
So we've got a bail, which provides our first level of security. Once that goes away, this tab here releases your ejection port holding. And as you can see, that's kind of moving around there. From there, they've got some modularity systems where you can remove this piece, get it onto a quick attach. I believe they also had a thigh rig.
Yeah, their quick attaches. This isn't Safariland compliant, so it doesn't back go with your Safariland, so you can't put it on your 6004. But they have their own system, which is like a triangle and wedges down in there. We don't have that, but they do make everything. All this stuff, all these buttons are fully adjustable. You can have them high, low. You could have a higher. They're all adjustable, so you can adjust the heights on them. The thing I'm curious to see is when we start doing weapon retention is how easy this pops. That's the only concern I see with this thing, is how easy does this button pop. But we'll know here in a little bit.
And you hit the nail on the head, really, because I mean, when you've got this back guard here and you want a higher level of security from a front attack, you can actually take, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but there's a set of adjustment screws here where you can move this front guard up, and then you really have to.
It comes with two. It comes with two
right.
sets of everything,
yep,
so
really
you can customize it.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's a totally different system. That auto hood is kind of nice. You know, you push that button, that hood goes down, instead of like what I'm running now. I have to physically push that hood down. This one is a button and it pops, and then you're into a level 2 scenario at that way, which is the ejection port.
Yeah, and that movement of the bail is really smooth. So
yeah, here we go.
So let's beat it up.
Go. Yeah, that's fast. That's a fast holster. Focus it in on the holster. That's for a level 3 holster, man. Threat. Yeah, it's a fast fucking holster. Go. Fast?
Pretty fast.
Faster than the ALS, I think. Put it up. Show the gun Nazis. Nothing there. No magazine. No bullets anywhere near. All right, so you're going to do some one-handed manipulated stuff? Alrighty, so what's the first thing you're gonna do?
First thing, so you get injured, and you have to use your holster to manipulate the slide because you've got a stoppage of some nature, whatever that looks like. Catch that rear sight.
So we're testing the plastic, see how the plastic holds up. Those are stock sights or those aftermarket?
These are trench coats.
So aftermarket?
Yes. Okay. So then you have an injury on your strong side, and you work it by pulling the holster close to your weak side.
So from a one-handed perspective, that's got to be easier than the Safariland from a one-handed perspective.
Yes.
I think so. I think just ergonomically, I think that the overall design, it's an easier draw for a one-handed offhand thing. So we got your heavy bag that you do your monster workout with. It's about 80 to 90 pounds. We've got our duty belt on here, and we have our holster. This is to simulate what?
This is simulate a fall or getting knocked up against a wall. Just so you're kind of in a tussle type situation where you wind up on the ground, and if you find yourself in a such scenario where you're hitting the ground, there's potentially you hit pretty hard. You get knocked off a embankment, something like that. So we'll go ahead and drop her and then see if our retention system holds.
All right.
Ready?
Yep.
Pretty solid hit there. Oh, there we go.
Ooh. It's getting beat up, but it's holding. All right. Yeah, you can tell it's beat up a little bit, but still working. Yep.
And that's just the belt slipping. That's nothing to do with the holster itself.
Yeah, we don't have that. Yeah, just go like body slam it. Just body slam it. Uh-oh, something broke. Oh, your forward button broke.
Yeah.
Your but that still doesn't. It doesn't interfere with
the draw. Still good. I just don't have my front security.
Which, in a fight,
not gonna matter.
So that little puppy broke off. All right.
Okay.
First failure. That's the fourth drop?
Fifth.
That's the fifth drop. So on the fifth drop, we popped off the...
And that was a slam.
Yeah, you slammed that one pretty good. But yeah, I mean, right around that screw took a beating. So, I mean, you could go.
But I'm still getting rotation on the hood. It's obviously not as smooth as it came off the factory floor because it's got some dimpling there, but...
And you got the RMR hood.
Yes. Which, the handy thing here is when you're running RMR, it's expensive, right? So we're talking about a $400, $500, $600 optic. You want to kind of protect that a little bit. Obviously on the RMR piece, you've got this protective hood here. Most of your RMR companies, we're talking about relatively expensive optics, $400, $500, $600. And with those, yes, most major manufacturers have a pressure test to their RMR themselves, but it's still an expensive optic. You're still going to want to keep pressure off of that. It's going to survive it, but if you can save your $400 optic with your $100 holster, why wouldn't you? Now we're going to talk about Gribble, right? That has potential, along with sand and dirt and mud and all that stuff, to get into your release mechanism and affect the ability to release a firearm. When I think about Gribble, sand, mud, all that stuff, I think about rolling around the ground, being in an active engagement with somebody, and so you're grinding that stuff in, you're moving around, getting more of that stuff sucked into your holster, right when Murphy's Law doesn't want it to. So I'm just going to roll around on the ground a little bit, see if we affect our retention in any way.
All right, do it.
Ready? And I'm going right on the holster here.
So you not only have weight, you got every time I move, you're moving in the opposite direction. Go. Like if you're on like you're grappling on the ground.
Yeah, I'm just moving around with my bad guy, and I don't have the benefit of having an extra 200 pounds on top of me.
All right, try. Let's see if you draw. You draw without.
There we go. Failure 1.
Well, I can see the pea gravel in between. That's probably what's preventing that draw right there.
Yeah.
Is that space there? But I mean, how many other holsters are gonna? Be doing that same shit. See? Oh yeah, you got it. Oh. Yeah. Is it good? Is that why you didn't use your real Glock?
Yeah.
All right, how much pea gravel we got in there?
There's some sand and dirt in there. What I could see fighting it out, I had 3 or 4 stones in there. That was obviously affecting my ability once I released the systems. And it's still...
But we are pushing this thing to heavy duty extremes. I mean, it's not it's not what you're going to do getting in and out of your car for a year, or or what have you. I mean, this is an extreme kind of situation. But we want to push it to test it out to see. Try to we're trying to find a failure point. Is what we're trying to do.
You talk about these encounters. When I'm rolling around the ground, all this stuff, I'm going to have to take a serious look at the rest of my equipment after the encounter is over and we're long gone and in the locker room. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to verify that everything I have is ready to go for duty use. And there's a high potential that you'll have to replace some of your equipment just based on the nature of the encounter that you're in.
It's affordable level 3, but where do you think this thing's sitting between? Safariland's the gold standard. Safarilands are great, but Safariland's going to have the exact same problem with the pea gravel. They're not really, now the Black Hawk Serpa, you get that thing anywhere near pea gravel. Forget it.
Yep,
you ain't getting your gun out. You better go with another option. Even my Safariland X2 holster, is susceptible to that pea gravel because I did a class with Harvey, and we were rolling around on the pea gravel at the range, and I couldn't get my taser was stuck in there. So pea gravel's a fucking nightmare.
Yep.
And pea gravel's bad news. So we're putting this thing into some nasty stuff. So now you want to go dip her in some mud. You want to go to my holster, or you want to keep going with this one?
Let's keep going with this one. Let's see what else we can do.
So we're going to go do the mud test.
Yep, mud test.
All right. So on the way to the
mud test,
we found some sand. So
let's drag it through the yard.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Hang on. So that's just a little roll around. That's quite a bit of sand. I don't know if I can get straight down and see that. You think that's going to draw? Is that even going to engage?
Can't get the first level defeated. Second level is not even moving.
No, you're gonna have to take that thing off and flip her upside down. All right, hood's off. Now what? You're gonna have to take it off and turn it upside down.
I'm gonna fight it out.
Is there any budge in that at all?
And that's a little bit of the problem, is that it's such a tight fitting holster that there's nowhere for any of this shit to go. So it's just staying right in there.
Now here's something to think about with your Safariland. Safariland has a plug for your barrel. These don't have a plug. So if you're running through that pea gravel is going to be in your barrel, and you go to discharge your firearm and you got a blocked barrel, that could be another concern. Could it not?
Yes. Let's do some blue gun.
Oh, there you go. Holy shit, that was a couple 100 pounds of pressure. Good thing you got the cheap light on there. Told you I didn't want to have my good high-end light.
So we've got pretty good scrape along the barrel there. I don't know that wasn't there before.
No, it wasn't. I checked the blue gun.
Okay.
So we had
Something
hold
sticking.
it. This is new.
Okay. So
that's definitely new. That's new. All that's new. So that sand really got in there. That sand did a number. If you look on the inside, I don't know if you can see on the inside there, but there's still sand. There's sand in some important parts. There's your ejection port release is now manual. There's no spring back because a piece of sand got into there and locked it open. So your firearm was released. It was only the sand that was keeping it in. This holster might be toast. It definitely doesn't spring back. It's not releasing the bail. Yeah, this thing.
So let's hit it with some water and move on to mud.
Are we taking it to the pool? Dip it in the pool?
Let's see if it works underwater.
Last video, everybody was asking about your gloves.
Oh, these are Home Depot specials?
They're the Impact Mechanics. Did it work? No. There's a piece of sand or pea gravel in there. I saw it.
Yeah.
So we technically would have to disassemble that whole entire holster to get out whatever's going on in there. Fall test, pass. Mm-hmm. Pea gravel test, it had problems, but you got it out. Mm-hmm. We got into the sand, and you didn't even crawl around in that sand. I mean, you just kind of went
scoot forward a little bit,
and that sand did a number on this thing. One of the things I'm seeing already on this thing, and it took. I mean, you saw what it took for us to get it apart, and then we've hosed it off, soaked it in water, and it's working a little bit right now. I don't know if we should go to the other holster for the mud test, or just continue to beat this one up. But what we've got going on is everything's working. I can get this gun out, but nothing's working automatically. When I push the hood release, nothing happens, and the ejection port release, you have to manually do it. And I think, we were talking about the Safariland. In the Safariland, everything's on the internal. So when you're moving your ejection port retention, it's on the inside of the holster. It's not hidden. And I think once it's said and done, I think we're going to open this up because there's an internal compartment in here. And I bet you if we open this internal compartment, we're going to find sand and stuff in there. And then I bet you once we get it out, hopefully this thing comes back up. So do you want to jump to a new holster, or do you want to mud test this thing?
Let's mud test that thing.
So we have Lake Nathan here. Potting soil, black dirt, and what have you. Just drag her through we're dragging it through the mud. If you're married, you know all about that. Getting dragged through the mud. All right, so we've mudded it up pretty good. There's mud and water in there everywhere. Alrighty, so we got to do all this manually. So hood comes down. Oh, no, look at that. Think it's coming out?
Oh yeah.
Here, hold on, like simulate my belt. It ain't coming out. Oh, there it is. Just had to wiggle it a little. So it did better in mud. I mean, you can see I got that mud in everywhere. It did better in mud than it did sand.
Yep.
Well, that's interesting.
Mud test pass.
It passed the mud test. But we'll do a submersion test. all you people that live around water, or if you jump in a pool with your defendant. Look at you braving it with those gloves.
Ooh.
What?
Comes out.
Comes out. Water test. Look at the camera. Water test.
Water test pass.
All right. We clean out some of that sand. Look. There's sand and dirt. Maybe we'll start getting this. So we're going to drag this thing behind. We're going to drag this thing behind the truck. Now we're going to do a drag test.
See, you're talking about drag test like it's not the career simulator. You're banging it against shit all day long.
Oh, my holster bang, my gun and my holster bangs against my. Did that just pop on its own?
Yes.
Wow. So the water test has washed out some of the sand and some of the sand,
moving the ejection port,
which is not a good sign. So if you had no retention, you could at least put that hood on there, and that hood would give you a level of retention. So far, we passed the drop test 5 times, 100 pounds, squished it. Cosmetically, we did some damage to the holster, but the holster worked great. Pea gravel test, it didn't do really well on the pea gravel test, but we were able to get the gun out. Where it really ran into problems was with the sand. The sand got into everything, stopped everything from working. So I'd say it failed sand test. Pea gravel, I wouldn't say it passed, but it didn't fail. It just wasn't easy to get out. So if you were in a life or death situation, it failed. But if you were in a situation that was more positive than negative, then you would have been able to figure it out and get it out. The drop test did break the front guard for the hood release. The mud test, it did surprisingly well in the mud test. I mean, we had a significant amount of water and mud, and it got in, it penetrated deeper into the holster than any of the other tests. But gun came right out, so no problems there. Water, we dipped it in water. Nathan drew it out of the water, and it seemed like the water actually did it some good, because we rinsed it off with hose, and we did some pressure washing with the water, and thought we got everything out there, but out of it. But when we dipped it into the water, gun came right out, and the hood actually started working again. So now we're going to drag it behind the back of the pickup truck and let it bounce around, and we're basically giving this holster a 20-year career in a matter of an hour. So here we go with the drag test. So I'm sitting on the back of a truck with some 550 cord in the holster. Don't try this at home, folks. It's done by trained professionals. So pop that thing off with your white gloves and let's see if you can get it out. There you go. That's a significant drag test.
Yeah, it went a while.
Light still work? Hey, no. Should be doing a commercial for the Nighthawk. That thing's taking just as much of a beating.
Yep.
It kind of smoothed out the roughing that you had done earlier.
Yep.
So you got the edges smooth now.
Good job there.
So drag test. All right, let's take.
Hey, guess what? Guess what the
No,
text fixed?
no, the water fixed that.
No, because
It's back.
Mm-hmm.
Drag test got the thing working again. If Nathan wouldn't have broken off the little flange on the 5th drop test, this thing would be back to new. Smoothed out all the rough spots dragging it. We dragged it for a significant distance. We dragged it for probably about 500 yards with a top speed of what, about 20? 10? That's it? And yeah, if you have a problem with your holster, just drag it around the back of your car in your neighborhood, get weird looks. Let me get to it at least. See if I can. So it's not, because I'm thinking from a drawing standpoint that it would be easy to. I have to actually really kind of get in there and get it, and there's no way you're going to let me get that close to your gun. And what do you think from a weapon retention standpoint?
From a retention standpoint, I like it because, yeah, you're defeating the bail, but the reality is you still have this backlash to contend with to get the ejection port.
But if your hand went in there, if you're like retard Redicop,
sure.
I mean, I got a little bit of skill, but
you're going in, you're poking, and that's working. We've got to change your grip a little bit to get to that.
no, because I could hit it with that and pull with that, like I just did. I just did it, because I mean, and that's because with the Safari Land, you've got to hit it and then you've got to pull it forward. This is just one mechanism that puts it down. That was always my concern with this holster is that all you got to do is push down on that button. Mm-hmm. But you know,
and since you're already activating the button, you're already de facto pushing back on that hood release.
But you'd have to know that. That's how that holster works. Because it's a lot bigger switch than on an ALS holster. It's a much smaller switch. Mm-hmm. Or actuator, whatever the hell you call those things. One holster holds at least 4 lights. Holds the olight PL2 Valkyrie, the PL Pro, technically that's 2 lights. Nathan happened to have a Surefire X300. Surefire X300 fits in here, no problem. The Streamlight TLR1 high lumen and the regular non-high lumen are the same. They fit in here. And this Nightstick, whatever this is, that light is kind of a knockoff of the Streamlight, which was on the gun the whole time we tested it. That light works with these holsters. So if you're looking for an option and you know that you might want to migrate to a different flashlight in the future, this is one holster that can do at least 4, possibly 5 lights that we've been able to test it with. So that's a plus for this thing. It's definitely a plus. They were definitely thinking about that. And the thing, you know, if you look at the Omnivore uses the light as the retention device, and they're breaking lights off people's guns. The Omnivore is not an option. And for doing bail enforcement, private security, or law enforcement, you better be doing level 3. I personally think unless you're doing some kind of undercover work, you should be running at least level 2. So, cool. So that answered that question. So they were thinking there. Pretty cool. So the Rapid Force Duty holster from Alien Gear. Thoughts? Ending thoughts? I mean, we beat the living crap out of this thing. We did extreme stuff to this that you're not going to do on a daily basis or a yearly basis or possibly even a career. We gave this thing a 20-year career in a couple of hours.
Yeah, and again, you're dragging through the sand, the pea gravel, all that stuff. That's it's kind of singular encounter stuff, and you're going to definitely want to check your equipment after you go back and the encounter's done. You're looking to go back on duty.
You should be checking your gear. I like to do it at least weekly. Be checking my gear to make sure that nothing's come loose.
Sure, but if you have a encounter that's
if you have a really bad encounter, you're
going to want to check everything out.
Yeah, you don't just go, well, everything's okay, let me go in tomorrow, and then you go to do something, especially if you're on the ground. If you're on the ground, I mean, we dropped this thing, we ran it through pea gravel, we ran it through sand, we ran it through mud, muck, dipped it in water, drug it down 500 plus yards down the street, and the street seemed to knock some sense into it and knock out all that stuff. But even when Nate took it apart, we still found mud and pea gravel in there, and he was able to get this thing back to, if this one piece wouldn't have broke, this thing would be not back to new because we literally beat it up, but it would be back to working. Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah? Sure. Sure. I mean, it's working.
And ultimately, you know, this body, the holster stood up to everything that we did to it.
Protected the inside of the gun. What beat my blue gun up was all the shit that got in it.
Sure.
And dragging it down the road.
But you know, we were able to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish, and our retention systems are still working. So we were able to access the firearm, you know, by and large through most of the tests. So would I recommend this holster? Again, that's a personal choice that everybody's going to have to make for themselves. But now that you have the information, I personally could see myself carrying around one of these holsters and feeling comfortable with it on a regular day-to-day basis.
Knowing its limitations. It's like this. It's like when we did the. It's like when we did the Safe Life Defense. We shot the living shit out of that vest, and I feel so much more comfortable wearing that vest every day and trusting myself in it because I know what it can stand.
Sure.
To where before you're like, I don't know, man. And then after what we did to that thing, I'm more than comfortable wearing my vest. So we know its limitations. I really like the fact that it works for at least 5 different flashlights that between Nathan and I that we own. And it's one holster. You're not buying a holster for a stream light and then you're buying a holster. It's a holster to where if you have a lot of lights like I do and like you do, we've got one holster that has options. And that's a real plus. That's a real plus to this holster. And I really like the fact that if your light breaks off or if something happens to your light or you don't want to run, you don't need to go to a different holster. It retains. It doesn't. It's retained in there without the flashlight. Did I just sweep you with the plastic muzzle? Sorry. We had one critical failure, but you get 2 of those, so technically you could just swap it out. And I'm sure Alien Gear would probably send you a new one if it did break.
Sure. And again, the failure that we had was on the front guard to prevent against somebody coming in from the front and trying to get your weapon. So would I call that a critical failure? No. But would I call it, something to write home about? Probably not.
Because the holster would still work.
Yeah.
You would just lose that extra defense mechanism, and you shouldn't be letting anybody get that close to your firearm in the first place.
Sure.
But I mean, shit happens.
Right. And is it going to be a showstopper? No. Main point, body of the holster held up, so I'm happy.
So it held up pretty well in the weapon retention. I mean, I really wasn't able to, what my big worry was being able to get in there real easily with you retaining it, me being able to get my hand in there and at least getting that hood popped, because I know if I can get that hood popped, I got a greater chance. These criminals, they sit around prison, they sit around jails, and they talk about defeating holsters. They study this stuff. They want to be able to defeat your holster. So the best thing to do is have really good weapon retention skills and a level 3 holster, because that's going to go a lot further than, you can't just say, well, I got a level 3 holster so anybody can come up to my gun and I'm going to feel secure about it. You got to realize people train to defeat these things. Just as many good guys are watching these videos, and then there's potentially bad guys watching these videos as well, learning how to defeat these systems. So, I mean, in the end, it comes down to you and what you're comfortable and what your budget allows. But this holster, I don't know how much this is, but my holster without the RMR hood is $115. There's a link down below, saves you 10%. If you use the code Bounty10, saves you 10% on the holster, which is basically, 115, 100. It saves you $15-20, which is basically shipping. And special thanks to our guy over at Alien Gear for setting us up with a couple of these holsters to try out. We just learned about these. Are brand new. They were announced at SHOT Show. It was just a couple of months ago, and we were fortunate enough to be able to get one of these in our hands. So anyway, leave a comment below on what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. Make sure you hit the subscribe bell, turn the notifications on, and make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn the bell on so you get notified when we release new videos. We're trying to do more and more and more of these gear test videos out there to get, to show you. We're trying to do it from a different perspective, Nathan and I. I mean, we put a lot of planning into these things and we talk about these things. I'm trying to do it differently than what everybody else is doing. So we hope you really enjoyed it. Check me out on Instagram, Bounty Hunter Bootcamp 1. He doesn't plug his social media because he's antisocial. So anyway, here we are. There it is. All right, put that belt on and put my holster on.
Let's go have a hot dog.
Teams, because it's such a fast draw, is it easy to defeat?
Right.
Uh-oh.
Wind.
Wind? You're supposed to, where's that retention there? Yo, so we're in our stance, we're talking, we're going, yo, cop, you're such a dick, cop. Did I get it? I got it that time. You're not supposed to let me grab your gun. How about the way they teach you in the police academy? That the assailant always goes like this. So are you really gonna let me get that close? I mean, we're not gonna go into defensive tactics and shit, but can I fucking get it? All right, how about from behind? So you're looking that way. I'm like, yo, cop. Oh, don't break my thumb. I got it. I got the first part. So, hey, look, squirrel. It's coming out, bitch. That bitch Carol Baskin. You let me do that.
Really?
Yeah, you let me do that. There's no way I'd be able to do that.
Take the opportunity to punch you in the face.
Hey, I got expensive dental work. Don't fucking with my face. That's my moneymaker. But I mean, you're not going to let me get this close. I mean, in a field interviewing, you know, you're never going to let me get this close.
No.
Unless I got tits out to here, then maybe I can get in that close.
Sure.
And then I can defeat your holster.